Thank you for joining us for the Tampa Bay IIBA chapter. Today is February 19th, 2026. Today we have the pleasure of having Taiwo join us. He's going to talk about from insights to action, automating business workflow with MS Fabric and Power Automate. I'm excited about this because I've heard about those things, but I really don't know how to use them. He's going to show us some things. My name is Thea Soren. I'm the president of this chapter. I am one of the people that helped write the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge version 3. I am the founder of the BA Force Multiplier Movement, and I'm one of the authors of Business Analysis Bridging the Gap Between Industries. Volume 1 and Volume 2 will be published in about a month. We're very excited about that. All of that means that I'm here to help you. I have a lot of experience, and it's my goal and my job to help you because I've got all this stuff done. Let me tell you about the IIBA for those of you who are new to our organization. The International Institute of Business Analysis is a global governing body for the business analysis profession. We've got over 30,000 members. We've got 120 chapters worldwide and 7 internationally recognized certifications. We are committed to making the world better, one process, one business, and one life at a time. The IIBA serves as the global standard-setting organization for business analysis. Because of this leadership, the most respected and widely recognized certifications in our profession come from the IIBA, grounded in the internationally adopted Babcock Guide. What are the benefits of joining the IIBA? You get access to training provided by chapters across the globe. You get complimentary access to over 25,000 outstanding books, including the Babcock, along with webinars and additional resources. You get discounts on certification exams. Right now, the IIBA has added a lot to their Knowledge Center, and they have also added the new Babcock Guide Technique Simulation. They want your feedback. So if you're a member, feel free to get in there and check it out and give them feedback. As I said, the IIBA chapters are in major cities around the world. But if there isn't an active chapter near you, we can talk about either you starting a chapter or you're welcome to the Tampa Bay IIBA. Members of the Tampa Bay IIBA Florida chapter are not restricted to residents of Florida or the United States. We have members literally all around the globe. So if you do not have an IIBA chapter, Tampa Bay can be your chapter. Our vision here at the Tampa Bay IIBA is building a thriving community of empowered business analysts. So why would you choose to join our chapter? We offer multiple training sessions each week, including CBAP prep and coaching, and an acclaimed SDLC workshop, among other things. You can view our upcoming events here at our website, and the updates are posted across LinkedIn and Facebook. And we have presented literally over 400 events since 2021. All of those events are available on YouTube, but as you can guess, it's really hard to find events by just going through random things on YouTube. So we've got Bob's Amazing Index. That's at rpchurchill.com. And he has a list of every single video, what its topic is, who the speaker was, what part of the Babcock we're studying, everything. It's wonderful. Thank you, Bob. This is our board. These are the folks who work behind the scenes for your benefit. We do appreciate them working so diligently to benefit our participants. All of that has come to a head of us getting this award. This is the 2025 Professional Development Award from the IIBA. It's given to only one chapter a year, and they gave it to us. Maybe we earned it. We're going to earn it better even this next year. Another result of all of our work is these students have reached out to tell us that our training and mentoring was a big part of the success of them achieving their certification. Many of these are past participants of our CBAP study group, and several studied along with us using only our YouTube videos. Our latest addition is Baker. Baker was in our SDLC Experience Workshop, and he's recently earned his CBAP certification. So congratulations to Baker. We want to take a moment to appreciate all of our partners. Our number one partner, though, is you, our participants. We can't do what we do and help people if they don't come to us and you bring them to us. You are part of the people we help. We're partnered with over a dozen other IIBA chapters worldwide, and we're mentoring 3 chapters that are just now forming. We've partnered with the Doback Group based in the UK and also with these here in the Tampa Bay area. We've also successfully partnered with several recruiting services and training companies. Our goal, as always, is to elevate our BA community. I'm going to turn it over to Esther so she can talk to you about our Purdue Mentorship Program.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. We presently have a partnership with Purdue University, working as industry mentors, alongside or industry mentors to the MSAI and MSDS students. That's the Masters in Artificial Intelligence and Masters in Data Science. And basically, what we do is work with the students as they work on different projects. We have a couple of the projects that are NDA restricted, IP restricted, but we're there as industry coaches to let them know the reality of the industry, the reality of the world outside the academic environment. And this partnership opens us up to a lot of learning and training opportunities, as well as personal development, even for the mentors that are working with the students. It's an amazing partnership, and I'm glad we get to do great things. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. One of the things that being partners with so many organizations does is it gives you, our participants, discounts. Watermark Learning has given us a 40% discount on their products. This includes their test bank. Test bank has 1,200 test questions that mimic the CBAP as well as other tests that you can take. It's what I use for my courses whenever I teach CBAP. Adaptive US has given us a 20% discount on their live classes and on-demand courses, excluding IIBA exam vouchers. Adaptive also has 90 free items, webinars, courses, not courses, webinars, handouts, things like that on their website for you to use. Today, after this class, the 2026 CBAP study group starts. We can continue to take people for probably 2 weeks, and after that, we got to shut it off because we'll be too deep into it. These are for people who want to earn their CBAP in October or November of this year. We will get you prepared if you have the 5 years of experience. We have 4 spots left right now. And one note, if you are currently looking at buying a CBAP, please be sure it's version 3. I've had several people purchase version 2. It doesn't work. It's not what we're using anymore. And also this weekend, this Saturday, we've got a workshop coming up with David Verbanik. He's going to be talking about software testing for business analysts. This is a basic thing that BAs need to understand of how to communicate with software testers, what processes that they go through, how we would have to do it if they weren't here. Especially if you work in a small or medium-sized company, you might have to do this. You need to understand how to create a test plan. This is a 7-hour virtual workshop, and it will give you the insight that you're looking for, but we're going to be closing registration as of Friday night. Next week, on February 26th, Rochelle Tan is going to bring actual case study from her own experience. It's an insightful case study of how problem-solving workshops help overcome bottlenecks and unlocked sustainable improvements in business transformation. The following Thursday, Ashley Snow explores how business analysts and project managers can best work together to balance speed and value by clearly decoupling solutions and project domains. We're going to learn how to focus on the right scope and how it ensures teams not only deliver faster, but deliver outcomes that truly matter. On March 10th, we're going to be publishing a panel discussion with the BA Force Multipliers. This one's going to be recorded, but with the BA Force Multiplier leadership, we're still working on the topic of this. But I'm hoping that a lot of our leadership will participate in this because the following one in April, we're going to have it open live so other people can participate. On March 12th, Tamara Koppel explores how business analysts can... So sorry, I jumped ahead there. Can be scaled down to small businesses without losing impact. Learning how just enough analysis helps entrepreneurs and consultants make better decisions, avoid costly mistakes, and focus effort where it matters most. Conference is coming up April 23rd. The BA Live Conference is a virtual conference. It's based in the UK, but some of the stuff that they have is stuff we need to know here in the United States. Another conference, May 28th, is the European BA Day. You can save the date here at the BA-day, and you can get a discount if you get in there early. Now, I'm giving you a lot of training, and this is just what we do. We have even more on our website. So if you go to tampabay.iiba.org, you can see our calendar and you can enroll in things with our partners. We also put information on LinkedIn on a regular basis, and we put all of our recordings on YouTube. We don't hold anything back from you guys. And once again, rpchurchill.com is where we keep the repository of what all the topics are on YouTube. So it's really beneficial. So now I'm going to turn it over to Taiwo, and we're going to go to our presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I hope I talk very loud. Yeah, okay. So just a minute. Let me share my screen. Um, yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining the presentation today. Um, and thank you to IIBA, like the Tampa Bay chapter, for having me. I really, really appreciate. So today we'll be talking on like from insight to action, how to automate business workflow with MS Fabrics and Power Automate. And if this is your first time of like knowing MS Fabrics and Power Automate is fine. The design for this session is actually to go through a quick overview of these tools, and then we'll go more into the hands-on, right? Which is like practical, lab sessions. And yes, so let me, so just thought to ask a little bit of poll, like how familiar are you with MS Fabrics and Power Automate? So, but maybe just few minutes. Let me see if I can get the link. Um, okay, minutes. So I'll just put the link into the chat just to have a quick overview of like the audience. Okay.
So we have 25 people here in the meeting. I'm looking forward to seeing how many people vote.
Okay, yes, so just drop this into the chat if you want to have a look. So just to have a quick overview. So how familiar are you? Like expert level, right? Okay. Are you experts? Okay, new. Yes. Okay, beginner. Oh, okay. No, we need to have some expert, right? At least one. Okay, that's just, oh, okay. Okay, I've heard of it, I've heard of it. Okay, that's nice. Beginner. Okay. Okay. So I think, yeah, from the what I see so far, we are like beginner to like head of it, maybe a bit of basic knowledge. Okay. So was MS partner for prod. Oh, okay. Nice, nice. Okay, so I'll go to the next poll just to like conserve time. These on Power Automate. So how familiar are you? Right. And it's fine if you are not familiar really, because how familiar are you with Power Automate, right? Just to, oh, okay, okay, oh, okay, oh, moderate, okay, we have one moderate, somewhat, okay, Oh, wow, 7 years. Wow, that's serious. Like, okay, nice. Okay, great. Okay, more grades. Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the feedback. I think the presentation was prepared for like this audience, so let me go quickly to date. So a little bit about myself. I'm Taiwo Olatunde. I'm a data and AI engineer with expertise across Azure, GCP, and AWS. So I currently work at MBIT in Frisco, Texas. So MBIT is an IT consulting solutions and startup. We build products, we consult for companies. So now we want to, and this was I think last week. We had a program, this was a GCP program. The uh, we had they had the training session with build with AI. So I was there for Thursday and Friday last week, right? Kind of building some multi-agent on GCP environment. So I'll go straight to the agenda for today. So the MS Fabric. So what's MS Fabric? Just an overview of MS Fabric. So I know maybe many of us will be more familiar with Power BI, right? Which is like the business intelligence part of like of Microsoft, right? Like that's their main tool for business intelligence. And of course, I know we know the BI actually means business intelligence. And so, but over the past few years, I think like 2, 3 years now, they kind of consolidated. So prior to our fabrics, Microsoft has a lot of tools, right? They use for different, workflows. So they have the Azure Data Factory that they use like for data engineering. We have the Azure Synapse that they use for machine learning and data science stuff. They have SQL Server, they have Azure Data, Azure SQL. So they have a couple of tools, and of course, they have the Azure AI Foundry with AI. So, but the idea really with Fabric is that they've kind of consolidated it right into an end-to-end platform, right, for business, insight. And starting with the data integration, so more of the data factory part of it. So of course, this really used to pull in data from different sources, and they have a lot of connectors. Then, the data engineering, the Synapse part. So this is kind of building on their Azure Synapse. So this uses like the Spark, right? The PySpark script. For those that are familiar with Spark, with PySpark. Also, you can use Python, right? To just write some code for the ETL code, right? So the extract, transform, load. So when you pull in data from different sources, you have to transform it, right? So you have the option of spinning up Spark compute and then loading it into your lake house, right? Into where you want to load it. And that takes us into the data warehouse. So after you extract data from different sources, you transform it using different scripts. Of course, you can also transform it with data flow. I will just be going through it. The next slide will speak on that. Now you load the data. So where do you load the data? You actually have two options. There's the lake house and then there's the warehouse. So boom, lake house, warehouse, they can be a bit technical. Actually, in the math, the difference between Lakehouse and Warehouse is that so Lakehouse uses the traditional SQL, right? So for SQL expert, you write SQL, write structured query language, it's organized into tables, into databases. So, but Lakehouse is a step ahead of that. So even before Lakehouse, we have what we call a data lake, right? So a data lake, we are talking of like Azure Blob Storage. So you can drop files, not just tables, right? Not just tables, so you can draw files, images. So, but then, and then we have, so that's the, so an example of data lake, we have Azure Blob Storage. On AWS, we have the S3 buckets. So, but then we now move into Lakehouse. So Lakehouse kind of is a bridge between your data lake and your warehouse. So you are trying to have a kind of, you want to have the structured format of a warehouse, but you also want to have the flexibility of a Lakehouse, right? That you're able to store different files outside the table. And just very importantly, Lakers is also is cheaper compared to a warehouse. So, but also in fabrics, you have, if you are used to like a warehouse, you have the option of like spinning up warehouse within fabrics. Now, this is where you load your data. So you've extracted your data using a data factory. You have transformed it using some data engineering workflow. Then you load it right into a data warehouse, into a data, lake house. Now, once you have done that, okay, what next? Then you want to do some data science workflow, right? You want to do some machine learning, you want to run some models on your data to get insights for the company. That's where the data science comes, right? So this data science, prior to this, Fabrics as Synapse, right? Microsoft had Synapse, but now they have the data science part of it. And this data science component in Fabrics, it helps you with like modeling, right? Machine learning model. You can build your own ML model. You can also use some like rebuilt ML models. Of course, not only this, it also help you with like ML ops, right? So kind of the operation part of machine learning. So experimentation, model tracking, kind of following the performance of your model. So that's the data science, right? Now then we move into the real-time analytics. So if for the use case in your company, it's like a real time, and a good example is like many of us that take Uber, Lyft, right? Of course, this type of data is a streaming data. So as the car is moving, they are tracking the location, right? So that's really a use case for a real-time analytics. Of course, even like in logistic, the cars, the delivery, vans, and all of that, they are tracking them. So that's a use case for real time. And Fabrics got you covered, right? You are able to, also do real time analytics with streaming data. And in this area, we talk of the KQL. Just like we have SQL for like structured query language, we have the KQL for Microsoft. So KQL is the custom query language. It's designed for real-time analytics. And then to the traditional BI components, right? So Fabrics also, incorporates, right, Power BI. So of course, I think my first analytic tool was Power BI, right? Like I started learning Power BI a couple of years, it's been some years ago. So for the Power BI, like SPA, those who are used to Power BI, Fabric got you covered, right? So you're able to, build reports, you're able to follow semantic model, edit model, of course, build on Power BI desktop, publish to your workspace, and then it also gives you a lot of flexibility, of course, use Copilot, within Power BI. And then last but not least, we have the observability, the data activator. Naturally, we'll be talking about this, and one of the labs will be on using data activator. So what a data activator does, of course, you have your streaming data and you want to take action, right? You want to take action, based on an event. That is what, a data activator comes. So you can set an alert, and one of the labs we'll be doing today will be to set an alert on one of the reports, right? So you have a Power BI report you've built, but you want to take action, right, based on, an event. Now, an event could be like, okay, revenue crosses this particular point, or any, an event. So you can connect it to your data activator. And prior to this, of course, Power BI gives you the option of setting an alert, but the scope was very limited, right? The scope it has to be like some card visuals, right? Some KPI visuals. And not just that, you can only do like this you can only do, like an email or maybe a Teams, but this observability kind of take that a step forward. It allows you to create Power Automate workflow, right? So those that are used to Power Automate, you can create workflow, using this observability tool. So you see, right, Fabrics is like an all-in-one end-to-end, right? They call it end-to-end. So depending on your use case, so they brought up all these different tools into one environment, and then it allows you to like automate, right? Is, of course, you can set all of that in a pipeline. So, you automate it, and then you're able to get insight from your data and also take action, right, based on what you see. And all of that, you sit on the one lake, right? One lake environment. So that's the data foundation. And something about Fabrics also is a software as a service experience. Security and governance is managed. Of course, it's managed by Microsoft. There's a compute and storage, so you don't need to, be thinking of, oh, you want to spin up like compute, different node and all of that. They manage that for you. Of course, you need to define the fabric capacity, they call it capacity, right, that you want, but then they manage all of that for you at the back end. And of course, it helps you kind of take care of your project from beginning to the end. So just a typical flow of what I just described on ML on MS Fabrics. So the high level is that you have different data source, right? So you have files like local files, files on SharePoint, CSV, text, and then you have files in your database, right? For different database, you use Azure, SQL Server, Postgres, and all of the database. Of course, not just within Microsoft, also SQL Server, in on AWS. Of course, it's not only relational, non-relational database. Of course, you have some business applications that you use and sensors, right? When we talk of IoT, right, streaming data, so that these are some of your data sources. Now, the first thing, the first step is to put them into Fabrics, right? Into the One Lake environment. So One Lake is like the data foundation, right? That you're able to access, like that stores your data. So to pull in data, of course, in data engineering, we call it ETL. So extract, right? You extract your data from different sources, from your business app, from your sensors. Now to build what we call pipelines, right? So there are two ways you can pull in data into Fabrics. You can pull in through pipelines, and we'll be doing, actually the first lab today we'll be building a data pipeline that will pull in data into our lake house. And then not too long, Fabric created they came up with what we call shortcuts. So let's imagine you have like your SQL database, right? Of course, many times as a business, you have SQL database running outside of Fabric. So the question is, do you want to come and reproduce it again, right? Build this from scratch within Fabrics. So actually, this shortcut kind of bypasses that. So what this shortcut does is that it allows you to, like, instead of pulling your data from where you have it before, from scratch into Fabrics, right, into any of their data warehouse or lakehouse, you can create a shortcut. So the shortcut is kind of like a reference point. So your data still sits where it is, but then there's just a reference link to it that sits within Fabric. So it's a zero ETL kind of way, zero ETL way of copying data into Fabric. So once you have that set up, now there's what we call, there's what we call the medallion architecture. And the medallion architecture is what we say bronze, silver, and gold. So it's actually organizing your data into different layers. There's the bronze, and I really hope I don't get too technical. Sometimes people think I talk too technical. So please, if yeah, bear with me really. So, but there's what we call the medallion architecture, right? That you store your data into different layers. There's the bronze layer, there's the silver layer, and there's the gold layer. So what that means is really your bronze layer means you store your raw data. So you get data from different sources, no transformation or zero or minimal transportation. You actually want to keep it raw, of course, for audit's sake, right? So that and note, you don't want to touch, just your raw data. It sits in your browse, and then you start the transform process. So to transform your data, Fabrics give you a couple of options. The first is, you can use like data flows, and we'll be practicalizing that in one of the lab just right now. Data flow. So it's a kind of zero code, low code way of transforming your data. But if you are someone that like you are hands-on, or if your data transformation is the workflow is quite complex, you can actually spin up what we call notebooks, right? So people that use Jupyter Notebook, you are familiar with Python, PySpark, you can write code, right? You can actually write your own code, in notebook using Python, PySpark script. And of course, for that, then we have the Spark, right? So the compute powering the running is the Spark, compute. So you submit Spark job and all of that. So all of these help you to clean your data. So you pull in your raw data into your browse layer, you spin up, whatever option you want, and then you clean it, transform the data, lowercase, uppercase, remove some rows and all of that. And then you save it into your silver layer. So your silver layer is kind of a transform, of is a transform a copy of your data from your bronze. So you started, you've cleaned it up, remove emails, remove rows, columns, and different transformation you want to do. And then you bring it to your gold layer. Now, your gold layer is really what sits closest to your business, right? So in this gold layer, you want to ensure that the data that is there has been adapted, right, to follow the business workflow. So your business, of course, maybe you use like a data cube, right, a data mart, so different business process. Of course, you can also, have like, these different architecture you use in your business. So, but by the time your data comes to your good layer, they should be business ready, right? So the naming, the nomenclature, the column names and all of that, they are business ready. Business ready for Power BI, for visualization, right? So, and that takes us to the analysis part. So you can consume that data on Power BI. So you connect to it and start building your semantic model, of course, start building your reports. And of course, there's also what we call the SQL analytic endpoint, and I will show us, as part of this. So this allow you to consume your data, even through an external application. Actually, I was part of a team that built a tool called Jericho AI, and we really use this SQL analytic endpoint to call our data from a different application. So in a high level, this is what MS Fabrics are help you to do. So so then we move into Power Automate. So of course, MS Fabrics and July is really what is really the main thing, right? Especially in the Microsoft environment where you are in the analytics space. Of course, it goes beyond the basic analysis. Like we said, you can do machine learning there, right? Not just that, you can even bring in AI. So you can deploy your AI model on different, stack, right? You can have it on OpenAI, you can have it on Azure AI Foundry, and then once you have an endpoint, you can consume it within Fabric. So it kind of really expand the scope of what you can do with your data. And so really, Fabric is really quite very powerful. Now we now go to Power Automate. Of course, Power Automate is part of like the what we call the Microsoft Power Platform. So Power Platform, Power BI, Power Apps, the kind of start their name with Power, right? Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Page. So Power BI, I believe we are very familiar with that. Power Apps is what gives, is when you are trying to build an application, right? With a low code or very low code application, so drag and drop. You can actually build apps with Power App. That's what is done. And when you build apps, it stores your data in the data vast, and of course, you can also use AI Builder and different data connector. Now, Power Automate is the automation part, right? So something that is repeated, you want to automate process. This is what Power Automate does. In the Power Page, is when you want a website, a low-code website, right? So of course, before Power Page, of course, developers, you have to write a number of code and all of that, give you the ability to write, with a low-code environment, and you have like a website. Of course, with the era of AI now, really, this is even much more, easy. Just go on some AI agents, open AI and all of that. And you have some websites really quickly, live. So, and then Dataverse is the database that powers, right, your Power App and some of these apps you built or with Power App. Of course, AI Builder and Data Connector. So in a way, there is like the high level overview of Fabrics and Power Automate. And I think we can take questions at the end if you have any question. So we just go straight to the labs because very excited to have it hands-on. And if you can follow, I know some a material has been shared, right? Kind of what is required to follow the lab. So if you can, please, you can follow us to see how you can automate business workflow with with Fabrics and Power Automate. So we'll be moving straight to the lab, and so I'll just be going straight to my environment. Yep, so this has been shared, right? To be able to follow the lab, of course, definitely you need a Fabric account and an active Fabric capacity. And the good thing about Fabrics, right, they offer this 60 days trial, right, that you're able to try. So if you go through this link, it's been shared before now, you can get your 60-day free trial. And maybe to mention, I think the day when I started playing with Fabrics, I had 60 days, then they renewed it another time, right? So I was really happy, right? Until I had to start paying really. So then the Power Automate also, you can use the what we call the Power Apps Development Free Plan, Developer Plan. Now this plan is really for developers, right? It's not paid, but is meant for a development environment. I'll be showing that shortly. So these are the what is required to follow the lab. And okay, wow, time is going right. Okay, so let's get down to it. We see how far we can go. So the first lab is really about building data pipeline with Microsoft Fabrics. So how do you build a typical data pipeline? So I have Fabrics open. This is the Fabric environment. And let me close some of these. So this is the Fabric environment. Of course, this is the workspace. So I created a new workspace. Just for the session, Fabric, automate training. So I'll go to the lab. So I created a folder. How do you create a folder? You do new folder and you name the folder. So I have two labs. The first is how to build the data pipeline, so which will be sitting here. Now to build the data pipeline, you go to new item. So new item, that's where you can build a data pipeline. And if you search, this kind of give you a lot of a lot of things you can do. So, but I'll just search. You can search for pipeline. Again, a pipeline help you to extract data and load it, right? And of course, not just that, load it, transform it. So that ETL pipeline. So when you go to it, asks for the name. I'll call it ADF. No, let me call it okay, IIBA pipeline. You just look for me. So when we create the pipeline, so a pipe, just like a pipeline is just a flow of your data, is that which allow your data to flow. So a pipeline can have a number of activity. So this is the interface you get to see. Now you'll be the one to start populating. Of course, they have some templates, some practice, and we'll be using one of the sample file. But when you go to activity, right? Activities, right? You now start defining what you want on your pipeline. So the first thing I want us to do is a copy data. So this allows you to copy data. Now, this copy
Sorry,
data is
Mr. Taiwo, just
okay. Go ahead.
1 second. Um,
Yeah.
did everyone get the email to set up your Microsoft Fabric, at least the trial version, so we can actually follow alongside the instructor? And if you have access to Microsoft Fabric as well, you could always just follow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like he mentioned, we're going to be practicing with sample data. So let's just
Mm-hmm.
follow alongside. Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. No, yeah. Thank you so much. So you can copy data, and this is like a no code way of copying. Of course, you can also create your notebook. I was talking of notebook before. So this is if you are like your own Python script, your PySpark, you can create notebook. This is the data flow that allows you to transform data. And actually, if you go down here, you can see different activities you can pick. So I'll just be going to the copying of data. So using a copy assistant, the first thing you need to define your data source, like where's your data coming from? Of course, Microsoft allows you to copy, see, these are all the different data sources you can use, both Azure and other services. But for this, we'll be using some sample data. So just, not complex. And I want us to use the holiday data, right? And maybe, sorry, before this, let's create our lakehouse first. So let's have this hanging, then we'll come back to it. We'll create a lakehouse. So a lakehouse again is where our data will sit. So before we pull in the data, let's create the lakehouse. So of course, new item, and I'll search for lakehouse. So again, a lakehouse, but we can be quite technical around how it was, but it's kind of an hybrid of a data lake and a warehouse. So I can call it IIBA lakehouse. So you give it the location and you do create. Very simple, right? They've kind of simplified, right, the way it's done, and then it loads in your lake house, right? Now under lake house, you can store tables and you can store files. Remember, we said that a warehouse, it has to be tables, and in data lake you can store like different files, but the lake house give you that hybrid. So you can store tables and you can also have files, right? And of course, this is SQL analytic endpoint that allows you to query your data from an external source. So this is our lake house. So once we have that bit, you can come back to our pipeline and use our copy assistant to pull in sample data. So I'll pull in this sample data from public holiday. It's kind of a data that have like that, tracks like holidays across different countries. So it's loading, you have a preview of your data. So different country, the holiday name, is it paid, is it the region and the date? Then the next is where's your source, right? Where's your destination? Now remember I mentioned that's why we first created our lakehouse. So we say our lakehouse here, IIBA data and lakehouse. So in this, we do a full copy. Of course, in data engineering, you can also talk of incremental, but we'll not go much into that. Now you need to define where you want your data to sit, right? You have the option of pulling it into a table or a file. So, but best practice, right, in data engineering, for your raw data, it's best to be in a file, right? Because you want minimal transformation, right? You want it to just be as raw as you pull it from. So just come here. So you can define the file name. I'll call it public holiday, right? I'll call it holiday data, right? Now I will give it a file part which is browse. So remember um, I talked about the medallion architecture from bronze to silver to gold. So copy activity, will put it as merge file. And I've created a guide that will be shared after this session, right? That you can follow what I'm doing, and this package format. So once you do that, next, ready to go. You click save, your copy activity starts is created, right? So here's your copy activity. I can call it copy holiday data. And once I do that, now the last thing is I need to connect, right? I need to authenticate, right? Who am I, right? So so I already authenticated with my, just signing in. And once you have this done, you are good, right? You are good. Of course, you can save. And once you save, you just need to click run, right, to really start copying your data, and your data is running. So while it's running, I'll go back to where we have, then I'll create so that will be copying our data from the source and sitting into our lakehouse. So I want to create the transform flow. So for that, I need a data flow. Remember we talked about data flow. So this a data flow gen 2, but a data flow gen 2, that gen is generative, right? It allows you to use generative AI. So when I do generate gen 2, I can call it transform holiday transform, just to transform my data. And once I do create, it opens the flow. It opens the environment. Now, why that is so, we have that on one. Let's check our pipeline that is running. So this our pipeline is currently running, is in progress, right? Of course, the only activity we have is copy data. So it's currently running, and you can refresh over here, right, to see what's the trend. This data, I deliberately chose it, is not very large because, but imagine you could have a big, you could have a large data. So let's give it a few minutes, and it will be completed. So in the meantime, we can go to our transform, and then we can, uh, the first thing is we want to import our data, right? So to import our data, so these are data flow gen 2, right? So let's just give it a few minutes. Let me see.
While it's in progress, may I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead, please.
How does this manage security for like PII, HIPAA, all those things? It's Microsoft is probably great. It's just we need to know.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, that's a very good question, right? In terms of security. So these fabrics, you can connect it to Microsoft Purview. So I don't know if you know Microsoft Purview. So Microsoft Purview, right, that's their the tool they use for security, right? But to track, right, your sensitive data, to, to transform it, right, to hide it. So and also to track who have accessed your data, right, who have logged in at different points. So it's really connecting it to that Microsoft Purview. So just so Microsoft Purview is a Microsoft way of, that's the tool they use to manage data security and governance. So that's exactly what, of course, fabrics as a whole, of course, nobody can have access except to give them access. So maybe to also touch on that, if I go back to the workspace, so there's what we call the admin, right? So currently I can manage access. Now, there are only two levels of access for me. So I can configure who have access to this workspace. Actually, there are four levels of access you can have, from admin to member to contributor to viewer. So viewer will only view. Contributor are
Mhm.
able to do some things. Member, but admin is the top level. So that's the first level. But then there's the Microsoft Purview that you can use to transform your data, like track who have accessed it, and then even hide some feed, right? Depending on how you want to do it. So that's a way to track security and be sure nobody is playing with your data outside. Yeah. So, but
Excellent.
thank you for the question. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think by now the pipeline is done, and boom, voila, it's succeeded. So let's go to our lake house. So these are lake house, right? The one we just created. We should see the data already here. So just give it a minute. I kind of refreshing just to be sure nothing is catching somewhere. So, so it's loading. And if you remember, we stored our data in the browse layer. So we have a new file called browse right now. And inside there, we have the holiday layer, holiday. And I think, okay, I see the issue. Just a minute. So I come back. So I see, oh, okay, something is wrong. There was something that needed to be added. So, but very, very fast. Let's come back to the pipeline. And the way I see time, okay, it's fine. We'll see how far we can go. I already have the guide also, so you can follow like after. I actually have 3 labs prepared, but definitely we are not able to get into all of it. So I want to change, so I need to add, right? So I need to add the extension, file extension here, right? Which is a package file, right? So that was what we're missing. So once that is done, I apply, is save, and I run it again, right? So once I run it, it will generate, it will run. So, and while that is going on, So once you start, it's kind of, wait a while, it's get queued. Can we see how it's even transforming from it's queued, then it start running. And you can refresh, right, to see the progress as it's running. So now it's in progress, right? Very fast. So then we'll come back to our um to the transform. Oh, okay, nice. That was very fast. So you see, it's succeeded. So now that it's succeeded, we can go back to our lakehouse, kind of refresh it, to give us what we want to see. And what's the minute? So my just the way I see, yep. So now these are package file, right? Now if I click on it, there will be a preview, right? Because now a package is a columnar data, right? It's kind of compressed. It's better than CSV because the compression is good. Now, here's our data, right? Sitting here like raw data. So once we have the raw data, let me delete this so I don't forget. So we delete this, there has to be that extension. That was what was missing. So I can go to my gen flow, to the data flow gen 2 for the transformation. So I want to transform my data. I go to get data. So once I do get data more, now you see, I have my one lake catalog, right? So one lake, this allows you, so I have this IIBA, lake house that I created, and of course asking for authentication. So let's connect, boom. So once I have like, and talking of security also, that's also part of that. You have to authenticate who is getting access, who is logging in. So it has to be someone who has been given access. So now it navigates me to my to the lake house, right? That I've defined, and then I can go to see IIBA lake house, the file. So we add the bronze layer, right? The bronze layer, and then I go to the data we just created. So once I go there, I can do create. Of course, there's a preview that will load, but just being very fast. So now it's loading, so if you are very familiar with Power Query, right? This is like, it's really kind of very similar. Of course, it's just, it's really Power Query. Actually, it's not even just very similar. This is Power Query. So let's say you want to transform your data. I'll just do one transformation. I want to extract like the year format from the date. So let me just say, okay, I want to extract the year. Of course, for people familiar with Power Query, I want to use from column from example. So add column from example from selection. I can just give it, I can scroll here, just give it 1970. Like, okay, I want to extract the year part of this date. So once I do that, I do okay, it's done, right? It's very happy. You extract the year out of the date. And I want to use the year later. So once that is done, I need to define my data destination. So this way, I define, so I've pulled in the data, then now I'm transforming it and I want to store the silver layer. So, bon, in a use case, in a business scenario, definitely there will be a lot of more transformation, but just so imagine you could do a number of transformation, and those transformation doesn't have to be a data flow. You can write script, right? PySpark, Python, SQL, no, not SQL, primarily, I use the Spark compute. So once I need to give it a, yep, so I need to define what's the data destination, and it's loading my one lake. Of course, I want to load it back into, so I think, yep, so is let's connect. So I come back to my IIBA lake house that I've defined. Now it's asking where do I want to store the data. Now I want to store, so usually when you put in your raw data, you store it in file, but when you transform it, it's good, best practice to put it in tables, right? So I want to give it in a table, and I want to call it holidays data silver. So to create a new table called holiday data, of course, I've saved it, and let me see next. And of course, this is the schema, right, that you follow. And once you do save, you are good. So So now these are our gen flow, right? Our transformation. Now, in a real life scenario, in a business scenario, this can be more complex. I'm just picking just very little transformation. And once that is done, I can come home and I can do save or save and run, right? So once I do save and run, it's saving the data flow and it start running. So while that is running, I can come back to my like pipeline that I'm building. So the first is that it has copied the data. I will add a new activity, right? The data flow. I can call it transform data. Mm, And once that is good, I can come here and give it the data flow I just created, right? Which is this, transform holiday in silver. And once I do that, so good, I can save. Yes, so I just come home, I save. Now, to build a pipeline, then you need to define the sequence. So the first thing is this copy data. So there, you see, there are all these four dots, right? If you are used to Azure Data Factory, this is, you'll be used to this. But this is if you want to skip, if this is successful, if this failed, and if this has completed. So I'll go under the sources and I'll drag it here. So I've created a pipeline. So the first activity is copy data. Once the data is in my browse layer, then this kicks off, right? It transforms data and loads it into my silver layer. And let's go back to our lakehouse. I know we are almost out of time. How many minutes left?
We are
Um,
4 minutes.
okay, yeah, thank you so much. So let's save this guy first. So, but I've sent the guy. There's a lot you can still do, but I think we'll stop after this. So let's save this. Then we'll come back to our lakehouse and we can refresh. And boom, voila. So we have our browse layer sitting here, right? Which is the raw data. Now we have cleaned the data, right? We now have here as a new column, right? It's now sitting in our silver layer. So we have this here. Now, just in the last few minutes, I can now create a Power BI report. So I can now go back to this guy, uh, to the uh, to the workspace, come back to lab, this post lab, then I can create a new report, right, from what I've been doing. So let me do, so I want to create a report, so which is like your Power BI part of, is leveraging on Power BI. So I know we have 2 minutes. Hopefully this thing moves fast. And so you can now connect to your data. So using the One Lake catalog, remember our data sits on One Lake. So I can now go to that new. So I'm connecting, of course. So now it has identified the new data I have, right? In this, so I can name it holiday silver or holiday model. So this is my semantic model, right, that I'm building. Of course, once I, click it, I say confirm, it opens up the report page. For me to start, building the reports, right, dragging and dropping. Of course, I can configure the semantic model as, as needed, but, we just have enough. So let's give it a few minutes. So now you see we are building the flow from extracting the data, we transform it. Now we want to build a report. And actually the last thing will be now to configure a data alert, right, on that report using Power Automate. But so this is the report. Of course, I can now create a new report. This is the semantic model. I can now create a report from the model. So just a minute. It's kind of loading. So I know we're out of time, but then just imagine now you can create, these are your models, and these are your feed, right? Your table. I can build a report. Now the last part will now be to create a data alert. So, but I know we're out of time, and uh, yep, that would be it really. So it's really exciting. Like there's a lot that can be done already. Okay. So, yeah, I think I'll stop here and hand over. Really, yeah. Thank you so much, Premier.
Thank you. I'm so glad that we recorded this. I'll be sending out the link to the recording, the instructions that you sent out, your presentation. I'm also going to send out a transcript just so people can follow along with that as well in the email for tomorrow. I hope everyone got good stuff out of this. He showed us so much we've never seen before, right? Thank you so much, Taiwo. I'm looking forward to next week's presentation. Those folks that are in the CBAP class tonight, we're going to switch over to the other link and we'll open up that class and it starts it starts right now. So I will see you there. Those of you who are not in the CBAP class, I'm so glad that you came tonight. It's so good that we get together and share this community and we learn and grow together. So we will see you next week, and we've got good stuff for you there. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.